Hello and thank you so much for joining me tonight. My name is Sasha Reed and tonight we've got a really fun, super easy, simple, quite cheap craft project to make where I'm going to show you how to take just two colors and we're going to do some really awesome, bright, fun, colorful cards. So there isn't any skill involved, it's not that expensive, it depends what you've got in your stash and what you feel like using. And please don't forget to subscribe if you enjoy this content and this video tonight. So I am going to use my Arteza watercolors tonight. Now you can use whatever watercolors you've got in your stash. Arteza has this 36 pan set. They also have a 12 pan set. So if you do have the Arteza ones, I'm using colors that are from the 12 pan set as well as the 36 set. So you can just use the exact same colors with me and have the exact same results if you feel like. Or dig through your kids' craft stuff or that palette of paint that you had tucked away from years ago you didn't know what you were going to do with, pull that out. All we're going to need is the three primary colors and we are only going to use two at once. So if you only have a blue and a yellow, then you will be able to rock your cards tonight. You won't need anything more than that. Now I'm going to use my pan as my mixing tray, but anything will do really. Whatever's in your stash that will be able to put your color on top of will work perfectly fine. And I've got a nice sort of medium-sized watercolor paintbrush. I'm going to also use watercolor card from Arteza. I keep saying Arteza and Arteza. It's Arteza, not Arteza. I'm going to use their watercolor card. It is my favorite. And I always buy it in these packs and cut it down to the size that I want it in. So if you're going to get watercolor card, I would suggest buying watercolor card in packs so that you can chop it to whatever size you want it to be. That's usually the most economical way of having watercolor card. I find it gets quite pricey otherwise. So I'm using some plain masking tape. This is just like painter's masking tape, normal masking tape, and I'm going to tape my panel down. This just keeps my card from curling while I'm painting on it because I'm going to use quite a bit of water. Now I'm getting my yellow a bit cleaned here. It had a little bit of blue stuck on it, so I'm just washing off the top. And I'm going to go ahead and pick up some of that pigment. So all I'm doing is getting my paintbrush nice and wet, rubbing it on top of my little palette of color, and then I'm just kind of scooping it off into my tray, if that makes sense. I don't know if this is right or wrong. This is what I do, and I have fun with it. I'm going to add a lot more water and kind of water it down a bit because the pigment is so strong and so bright in these colors that I don't need very much. Now this is where we're going to start. We've got the yellow down, and I want to do a bunch of greens. So I put my yellow down and I'm going to just tap it in my blue to get my first color. So I'm going to do circles to start with, and my circles are always wonky. If you've watched me before, I don't do perfect art. I am not an artist. I am a crafter and I make messes. So nothing you see me ever make will be perfect. It will always be wonky if it has anything to do with me. So these are all wonky circles, and it works because if you have one wonky circle, it stands out in your nice beautiful circles, but if you've got them all wonky, you're fine. You'll be all right. And you'll see at the end, it looks fine. I think it looks fine. So again, all I'm doing is I've got my yellow as my base and I am tapping my brush in the blue and then mixing it into my little color on my palette. And that is all I'm doing. And then I'm going to the next circle and I'm adding another tap of blue and getting another shade of green. And then I can go ahead and make my circle with that shade and then tap it again in the blue and do the next color. Now I'm trying to give these circles a little bit of dimension, so I'm trying to get like that kind of lightened effect on the one side. Now if you're trying to do this and you're failing, you can just take a paper towel or a tissue and you can kind of absorb some of that color as you put it down to give it that sort of halo-y, shadowy, I don't know, what's that word? I have no idea. I'm not an artist. I have no idea what I'm talking about. But, I'm going for that little spot of light to kind of make it look a bit more like a circle. I've seen other artists do it, actual artists, and I thought that looks nice, when I've watched art videos and stuff. So that's why we're doing the circles with the little blobby of light. Anyways, we get down to the bottom and we get my favorite color in the world, that beautiful teal shade. I absolutely love it. I'm going to remove my masking tape. Now some of my circles touch the line, some of them don't. Well, it is what it is. I think it still looks good and I really enjoy it. So that is my card panel number 1 done, and we only used two colors of paint. That's all. I'll share with you by the end of the video how I decorate the fronts of them, how I kind of finish off my cards to give you some ideas and inspiration. But the technique tonight is using paint in our stash, just using two colors and mixing them together like primary school and using the primary colors, and it's great fun. So again, I'm doing the same with the red. I'm pulling the pigment off of that little cubey blob. You can feel free to tell me the correct words in the comments section down below. You won't ever really find proper words with me. I kind of just go with the flow. This one I just decided, well, my circles were wonky. Let's do wonky blobs. And then I thought, ooh, let's go for some shadowing, shading, the touch of light thing like we did with the circles. But it kind of looked a bit pans. And it wasn't really working with the blobs. So I thought, well, let's dab it with water. And that worked. So again, I'll roll my paintbrush in there just once. I'm getting kind of half my paintbrush covered in that blue color because this one transitions a lot faster than the greens did. So I'm getting a lot darker, a lot quicker. So I think I needed to just tap it in the blue and then I could get more of a graduated color scheme. You'll see by the end I get a very dark blue. So my intention was to do sort of shades of purple, but it ended up going quite a blue look by the end. So really simple, really easy technique. The more random and blobby your blobs are, the better it looks together, the more it looks like it's meant to be that way. And the taps of water really make that color kind of spread about and give it a bit more texture to the look of it. Now, if you have a go with this project, I would love it if you wanted to share it with us over on my Facebook group. I'll leave that link down below. As well, you can check out my Instagram where I post photos of things that I don't tend to put on my YouTube, so you can see more pictures of more creations I make, or sometimes design team projects I'll stick over there. So you can follow me on Instagram if you like as well. But I really do enjoy seeing your creations, especially if you've gone with one of my ideas or one of the projects I've made and done your spin on it. I love to see it. So on this one, I am doing the last two primary color combinations. I'm going to do the red and the yellow, and I'm just going along and getting a whole bunch of shades of orange. So it's really quite simple. Again, nice and easy. On this one, I decided I would do squares instead of doing blobs or circles. And then I thought I would try and do stripes down the card using the water because the taps of water worked so well with the kind of bursting. However, I should have done my little drags of stripes while my paint was still wet because I'm having a really hard time lifting that color now that it's dry. But you can see on that second row it was still a little bit damp, so it was really quite easy to do the little lines and stripes on it. But it doesn't matter, it all looks random and fun in the end anyways, and you'll see my finished projects in just a minute. Now off camera I went ahead and did a couple more just because I couldn't help myself. So I did some gradient colors on a diagonal, and it's the exact same thing I did with the circles, and you can see here I did not tape it down and therefore it got very curly. So the other one does curl but not quite to the extreme as when you tape it down. So you can see the same gradient of colors going on, but I did lines instead of blobs, and then I carried on and did a teal front of my card with the paint when I got towards the end of the green. Now because the Arteza watercolor card is slightly off-white, I find that this ivory color from Lime Tree Crafts in the UK is an absolute perfect match to my watercolor card. So I love using that as my card bases because it goes really nice with that watercolor card on the top. So all I'm going to do is take my panels and just glue them onto an A5 card base. So this is an A4 sheet of card folded in half. And then I cut my panels to be 1/2 centimeter shorter on all sides so that I get this nice little border around the edge. So again, I just stick all those panels down and then I am finished. So the only card I actually didn't make a sample of is that little teal blue one there, which I did recut and put onto the cream base because I ended up mucking up the whole card with a lot of paint. Now I won't bore you with how I decorate all of them, but I thought I'd go through this first one with you. I thought these colors were great and natural looking, so I thought some leaves would be a really great way to sort of do a front panel of this card. Sometimes I look at the colors and I think, ooh, what would go with that? Either maybe a flower or a butterfly, or in this case I feel like it's very green, so therefore some leaves would be quite great. So I'm using some Gina K masking paper first of all to cut out the die cuts that match this stamp set. And I'm going to go ahead and pop it into my stamp platform and use the stamps next. So I'll put my biggest one, the one I want to be my focal point, down first and in the center. And then I'm going to use my VersaFine Onyx Black ink just because it's a really, really, really nice crystal clear black ink. And I'm going to go ahead and put that on my card, and then I will take my mask and cover it up. Because I want to stamp all 3 leaves on, I don't want them overlapping and kind of having too many lines and that sort of messy look when there's just too much going on. So I'm using that mask to sort of block off that middle leaf so that I can stamp the other ones, and then it kind of looks like it's going behind the leaf, my sort of focal point leaf. So I just go ahead and pick up that stamp, ink it up again, and stamp it down onto my panel. I do that a couple times just to make sure that ink is really sticking to my watercolor card, because it's a bit porous. Sometimes the ink doesn't absorb in quite as quick as I'd like it to. So I lift off that mask, and it does look still a little bit like a hot mess. It still looks a bit cluttered. So the way we're going to kind of address that is we're going to fill in that focal leaf. I've got these gel pens from Arteza. I have the super fine or the super amazing glitter pens from them, but I find that they're always out of stock and I've nearly burned through them. I've used up so much of their gel that there's not much left. And these ones you can buy refills for, so I thought I would try out these ones and see how I go and have some fun with those. Now, if you watch one of my recent videos, these pens are new in my stash and they are so much fun. They are just fantastic. They don't smell of anything and they're great for lining things. The white is so bright and it just rests on top of my projects. It doesn't seem to absorb the colors underneath. So it's great for splashing on the top like this. And all I'm doing is pumping it and then kind of shaking it on top of my project, and I'm getting some really great white dots. So again, you could use some paint doing that. If you've got any acrylic paint, you could just mix it with a little bit of water to make it a little bit runnier, and you could add splash marks. And I just wanted to create more texture in the background and then leave my focal images without the white. So I put the masks back on and covered them up. Now I went ahead and picked out 3 colors. I've got the yellow, the light green, and the darker green in the kind of glittery versions of the gel pens, because it comes with pastels, glitters, and all kinds of normal ones. Now all I've done is I've gone ahead and used my finest ink blending skills and just kind of put the colors down and sort of blended them into each other by scribbling over top a few times. And it seemed to work. The gel is nice and movable, so I got this kind of ombre look. And to finish it off, I used some white embossing powder on a piece of black cardstock and just stuck it along the bottom of the leaves. So for my next cards, I went ahead and added on a similar thing. I had a die cut and some stamping going on, maybe some pens to kind of add a bit more texture. So for this one, I've got these new scrapbook dies, scrapbook.com dies in my stash. They're just sort of foliage. I can never say that word right. And this cool vertical stamp set from Waffle Flower, which I used the happy birthday out of, and I stamped it in a yellow ink. It's really hard to see, but it is there. And I've got these bows from AliExpress, and of course my Arteza markers. This is the gold one, and I just drew on dots on this one and kind of added on some speckles, and I only semi-glued down the die cuts so they kind of look like they're popping off a bit. For this one, I used some foil cardstock. I had a whole pack of greens. They all came together in one bundle, and so they worked out really well. They're sort of the matte foil card, and to get a more textured look on them, I used Giant Stylus. I have no idea what it's called. It's for making flowers, flower forming. And I just kind of rubbed that over top of the foil card, and it gave it sort of a more rough metal look. I don't know if that's the right word. I was trying to go for some masculine cards here. I don't know if this die set is still available or not, but everything that is still available, I will do my best to link it in the description box for you so that you can find it if you want to check it out, or if you have any questions about sizing and things. I'm sure they're listed on the website. For this one, I went and used Pretty Gets Gritty's die set, and this one is called Crazy Daisy, and it's got this wonderful huge daisy in it, and it works really well for a nice big card front. I've also got these gems from Alina's shop. They're sort of the flat back water splashy looking gems. I'll link them down below. They're great because there's about 5 sizes in that little jar, from teeny weeny ones to semi big ones. I put all the sizes on the front of my card. And of course, my favorite ever black pen was used to outline my flower so that it would slightly pop off that card a little bit more. So I didn't manage to finish the little card, but I did get these 4 done, and I'm really happy with how they turned out. And again, use what's in your stash. If you've got some die cuts you want to use up, some stamps. You can die cut, you can stamp, whatever you've got in your stash, you can go ahead and stick on the front of these cards. You just get such a beautiful effect with that gradient of color. So I hope you had fun with me tonight, and I look forward to seeing you on Saturday. Take care and have a fantastic week. Bye.